All righty, Paws podcast episode 81, a very, very special episode here, Jake. We have a very special guest. We have Willie Simmons, newest FIU football head coach. Coach, we're very, very excited to have you on here. Welcome to Paws podcast. Welcome to FIU and welcome to the 305. How are we doing?
Oh man, doing well. Excited to finally be on with you guys.
Yeah, for sure, Coach. I mean, it's been a long road for you to get here to FIU. So let's start, from the very beginning. Let's talk about Willie Simmons, the quarterback. At what point in your life did you want to play football, and at what point did you think this could be something they could do full time?
Well, I started playing football at the tender age of 8, growing up in Quincy, Florida, which is a small town just west of Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Wasn't a whole lot to do other than get involved in sports. So started out playing all 3 sports, football, basketball, and baseball at an early age. First 2 years played running back and wide receiver. And then my third year, I was moved to quarterback. Ironically, it was during the same time that Charlie Ward was leading FSU to his first national title and winning the Heisman Trophy. And so I joke with Charlie all the time, who I share a birthday with, by the way, that I squeeze into that number 17 jersey every game. It was the smallest jersey we had in the entire on the entire team, but I was gonna make sure I got into it every week just to emulate Charlie. And so from the age of about 11, sixth grade, really all the way through my playing career, I played quarterback. And my last year of arena ball, I was a kind of multi-positional guy. Played quarterback, played some receiver, played special teams, was the kick returner. So that was the first time I kind of got outside of my comfort zone. But again, I'm a quarterback in nature. And then as far as coaching, it was really crazy how I was led to coaching. I never thought about coaching. It was something that, I just never really thought about doing while I played. I was a business major. And so in my eyes, I was going to be an agent, or I was going to go into some type of sales and marketing. But driving back from Sioux City, Iowa, a buddy of mine called and asked if I'd be willing to come coach quarterbacks at Lincoln High School, which is one of the more prominent high schools up in North Florida. And me knowing about the program, the quote unquote kill time until I found a full-time job, I said, yeah, I'll come out and coach. And the moment I stepped foot on the field with those guys, God let me know that was my calling. And that was back in 2005, and I've been doing it ever since. So going on year 20, really in coaching, and it's been a great ride, been a fun journey, some highs, some extreme highs, but some lows as well. And it's been a lot of learning lessons, and that's brought me to this place. But I'm blessed to be here, excited to be down here in the 305, leading this phenomenal program, and can't wait to get started to bring championships to Pitbull Stadium.
Oh man, I love to hear that.
Talk a
little bit about your time at Clemson. We're there for 3 years before going to Citadel and becoming the starter there. Just talk about, just what could you take away from the collegiate experience? And I guess I could ask you, how much has it changed from back then until what you see it now? It's definitely a big one, but.
Look at that.
Yeah, look at that old picture there. Big face mask. Oh my God, huge shoulder pads, big jerseys. That's some of the changes. The equipment is a ton better than it was back when we played. Of course, the uniforms were oversized. That was kind of doing the oversized uniform phase of the Fab Five and doing that type of deal. But no, Clemson was a great experience. Growing up in a small town, I really shied away from the big city schools. So University of Miami was my first official visit. Took an official visit to Georgia Tech, and so I had some opportunities to go and play in cities like Miami and Atlanta. But just being a small town guy, I really wanted that true family feel, that country environment, and Clemson provided that for me. And so went there for 4 years. Was able to get my degree in 3 years, which was the fastest any football player had ever graduated from there. And, again, a lot of great experiences there off the field. Really got tapped in with FCA and met a lot of phenomenal people in career development. And then from a football perspective, we were the kind of the start of what they have now. Every year since 1999, my freshman year, Clemson has been bowl eligible. And they played in the bowl every year except, I think, 2003 or 4 when they had the fight with South Carolina, unfortunately, and was suspended from the bowl. But every year since I stepped foot on that campus, Clemson has been bowl eligible. And so, I take pride in knowing that we were kind of the foundation of the success that they're having now, with Tommy Bowden there, and then obviously Dabo Swinney taking over, who I had the chance to work with when I went back as a grad assistant. And so great place, phenomenal people, and I still pull from my alma mater. But obviously I'm loyal to who pays me, and so I'm FIU first. And but again, I do try to keep track of what those guys are doing up there at Clemson. But again, a lot of experiences that I take with me to this day that have made me the coach that I am.
Yeah. Coach, it's a pleasure. Your one taste of the professional football level came in, like you'd mentioned, 2005 with the Sioux City Bandits of the United Indoor Football League. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a photo, which it would have paired with
that's a good thing. That's probably a good thing.
C'est la vie. And this blew my mind when I was doing some research. The only player in the league to account for a passing, rushing, receiving, and returning touchdown. If you could describe your experience there playing with some other pros, that obviously it's not the NFL, but it's still, I know it means a lot.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I was kind of in that transitional period in my life where I was having to make a decision of do I continue to chase my professional football dreams, or do I transition to the next phase? And so after I left the Citadel my last year, I was back in Quincy, just kind of helping out my mom who was battling kidney failure and transporting her back and forth to dialysis. And then Jose Jefferson, who ultimately is my general manager now, came down and worked a bunch of us out there in Tallahassee. And about 7 of us from the area made the team and made the long 22-hour drive to Sioux City in late January, early February. And so it was an Arena 2 league, some really good players. Fred Jackson was my teammate, who was, I think, the co-player of the year in the league. Fred went on to have a long, successful career in the NFL with the Buffalo Bills, and but again, was just an amazing guy. And Jose ran a phenomenal, program there, and we had a great team. Unfortunately, lost in the championship game, but I came in, I was the backup quarterback. But Jose, being a football guy himself, recognizing the ability that I had, had me as I was the backup running back, I was the backup receiver, I returned kicks. Of course, in arena ball, you don't punt, so every kick is a field goal type. So if it stayed in play, I could return it. And so again, I did have the fortune of being the only player in the league to account for touchdowns in all of those ways. And so had a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it was the same summer my mom passed away. And once that happened, I really had to make some tough decisions about my life and what was next. And so, like I said, again, the good Lord blessed me with the opportunity to coach. And, from that, I haven't looked back. But fun times up in Sioux City, Iowa. Have not been back since I left 21 years ago. Don't have any aspirations of going back. But so the memories will be Jose and I talking about the team and some of the fun times we had. But again, I relish and I look back on every memory that I've had over my life, especially throughout this game of football. And it's taken me places that I never would have imagined. And that's what we tell our guys all the time. Who would have imagined that a guy from Quincy, Florida would end up in Sioux City, Iowa playing football? And so because of the game and where it's taken me, I've been exposed to a lot of things that otherwise I probably wouldn't have. So wasn't traded for the world, still keeping contact with a lot of those guys. Unfortunately, we've lost a couple of teammates over the last few years. And so it's brought all of us back together, in circumstances that we wouldn't want to be in. But again, that's a part of the game too. And that's a part of what makes football special, is that we're a bond. We're family for life. And, I do enjoy the bonds and relationships that I was able to build during my, I guess, 8 months in the Midwest.
Coach, I may be going a little too far in advance in the timeline that we're kind of moving here, but talk a little bit about that GM position, one that is kind of growing now in college football. Just more or less, if you could kind of take us through how different it is, obviously, from what we see at the pro level, without, where the money isn't as big of a thing maybe in college. Just talk a little bit about how that roster management works with a GM and what made Jose the right guy for the job.
Yeah, general managers are kind of a newer phenomenon in college football now. I started probably 2 or 3 years ago, and it's a little different than NFL. Obviously, at the NFL level, the general manager really oversees every aspect of the program, from roster management to salaries to draft positions. I mean, you name it. So a lot of head coaches are trying to push to be the general manager at the pro level because they want that type of autonomy to decide, who they draft and who they coach. At the collegiate level, it's not so much about the X and O uh, perspective. It's more of the roster management, on the roster management side. And so, Jose, like I said again, with his background, having been a head coach, having worked in the XFL, in operations, having done internships in the NFL, having been a collegiate coach at the Division III, Division II level, he has the experience to understand what roster management looks like. And so he assists me, basically overseeing recruiting first and foremost, so making sure that our roster stays in a good position. With the transfer portal being what it is, uh, every year you can lose a lot of guys off your team. And so in the past, where you were only losing graduating seniors or guys declaring for the draft, it was a lot easier to manage your roster because you kind of knew the 20 to 25 guys that you were going to lose every year. Well, now you got to account for those guys leaving, graduates, guys declaring for the draft early, but also the guys who are potential transfers. You got to make sure that you have someone that can look at the roster every day and ensure that you're not in a position where you say, "Oh crap, we don't have a tight end on our entire team," right? And so that's where the general manager comes into play more so than in the past, because in the past it was the head coach, and between the head coach and the recruiting coordinator, the two of them kind of coordinated that. Well, there's too many moving parts now. We're having to manage a roster, having to deal with NIL, and in the recruiting, the calendar changing, unofficial visits, official visits, limitless official visits now. And so there's just so many changes now that where you need someone devoted solely to that. And Jose was a perfect person for the job because of this experience and the fact that we've known each other, again, for over 25 years. So very excited to have him here. And he's hit the ground running. I tell you what, a lot of great things are happening here at FIU. And he's responsible for a lot of it. And I'm looking forward to seeing how we can, configure this roster moving forward.
For sure. Coach, it's needless to say your coaching career has been extensive, but I think what everyone really remembers you is your years at FAMU, never a losing season. Last season, I believe you go 12-1, win the HBCU, go to the Celebration Bowl. Talk about your time there. Just, you took in a program that didn't have the success that maybe people wanted, and you really turned it around right away. What was the key to that? And, looking at your past stops and Prairie View and even Lincoln High School, just what you take away from those experiences that you were able to use in your time at FAMU.
Yeah, I've been kind of dubbed the turnaround specialist because pretty much every program that I've come into, with the exception of Lincoln High School and Clemson when I went back, the program wasn't performing very well. And so, when I got the Middle Tennessee State, Coach Stockton had just taken over. They were transitioning to the FBS level. And so, trying to build that program up, we were able to go to, consecutive bowl games, win the first bowl game in program history there, and do some really, really amazing things, put a bunch of guys into the NFL. So again, was able to do a lot there. And then when we got to Alcorn State in 2012, I think they had come off a 1-win season the year before. And so coming in late with Jay Hobson taking over, having to revamp that roster, having to play a bunch of young guys, take our lumps our first year. We went 4-7, but then we committed to just developing guys and playing all of those young guys we brought in. And then the next year won 9 games, and the year after that won the SWAC championship. And then got an opportunity to become a head coach, over at Prairie View A&M, which had come off 7 consecutive losing seasons before I took over there, and went in the first year won 9 games. And so, again, had a lot of success. Did a lot of great things there in Texas. And then ultimately that opened the door for me to return home to FAMU and take over that program, which, crazy as it sounds, FAMU had gone 6 straight years of losing seasons. And so, came into a program with a lot of history, a lot of tradition, but needed a complete revamp of pretty much everything there with the program. And so we came in, committed ourselves to doing the things that it needed to turn the program around, changed our recruiting efforts, really worked hard to brand the place, to really bring that history that we had into the facility. It wasn't there when we got there. and obviously we were able to do some really, really great things there. And so, that success led to me being able to transition to Duke with Coach Diaz and go in there last year and win 9 games with a revamped roster. And then obviously got the call here by Scott Carr to come down and be the head coach here at FIU, which obviously hadn't had the level of success that you guys and that Panther Nation wants. But we're charged with the same thing. And I think the formula is the formula. It's not my play calling. It's not any magic jelly beans. It's us committing ourselves across the board to standing on the foundation that we're building. And we call it our 7 F's. It's plastered around the facility now. They'll see it every day they walk into the field house. And that's what we have to do as a program, as coaches, as support staff, really as an administration, even as fans. We have to commit ourselves to doing the little things right. And the more we do that, the more we practice championship habits every day, not just on game day. The sooner the wins will come, and the sooner we'll bring championships here to Pit Bull Stadium. So I'm looking forward to the challenge. No job's an easy job. And typically minorities, as unfortunate as it is, we typically don't get the jobs that are kind of ready-made for us to step into. Typically it's a job that someone's gotten fired from. And as you look across the board at the job that most of us got, they're jobs that people have gotten fired from. So, which typically means that they hadn't had the success that comes to be expected at those institutions and programs. But we look forward to the challenge. Again, great guys. This team is full of phenomenal individuals that I've had the chance to meet, and I'm looking forward to working with them because they want to win. That's the one thing about this group. When I met with them individually in December, every player that walked into my office said the same thing: that, Coach, we want to win, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to win. And so far, they've done exactly that. So I've been pleased with the progress they made in the weight room, out there on the field conditioning, and again, looking forward to getting to our offseason program in early February and on in the spring ball in March to see really what this team is made of as we configure it and be able to put a championship caliber team on the field hopefully this fall.
Yeah, Coach, it was no secret that you were a candidate for the initial coaching job here following the departure of Butch Davis many years ago. I can't even recall how many years ago that was. It's been a hot minute. But if you would, Coach, compare and contrast the conversations you had with FIU AD Scott Carr, among others, along with your personal belief that you were going to land this coaching job at FIU between then and now.
I think the biggest difference was obviously AD Carr was just getting the job back in 21. When I interviewed for the job the first time, and being the first time AD, there's a lot of pressure to get it right. And so, he made the decision that he felt was best for the program at the time. And Scott and I have actually kept in contact a lot since then. After the interview process, once I wasn't named the head coach, we talked. I asked him for some feedback. He gave me some great feedback. And we've kept in contact over the years, not talking about the job, not talking about anything other than, hey, wish you best of luck this season. We have a big win. He congratulate me. Obviously, if they had a big win, I congratulate him. And so, again, that was the relationship that we were able to build over the years. But the interview process was very similar both times. Pretty much the exact same people that were in the room. And so that shows the consistency of the administration here, aside from the president. The president was only changed, with Dr. Jessel obviously being at the helm this time as opposed to President Rosenberg. So that was really the biggest change. But Julie Bird was in there. Heath Glick was in there, Kevin Kendrick, the same individuals. And so it was really kind of nostalgic to regurgitate the same stuff that I said back in 21, because again, I haven't changed. I've grown, got a few more gray hairs, a little bit lighter on the lighter side than I was back in 21 when I interviewed. But my philosophy has been the same since I started coaching. Those 7 F's are things I've carried with me pretty much my entire life. And I believe those are the keys to success. And so I wasn't going to give a different spiel this time because I said, well, that spiel didn't get me the job last time. No, this is who I am. And if you hire Willie Simmons, this is what you're going to get. This is what I believe in. And this is what our team will display when people see them. And I think this time the timing was right. I think that, the good Lord orders our steps. And I firmly believe that this is exactly the right time for me to be the head coach at FIU. Just like FAMU. I didn't get the FAMU job the first time I interviewed for it. And then 3 years later, they came back and hired me the second time. So hopefully we'll have the same type of magic here. And, we'll all be celebrating together when that happens. But again, I'm not a person that holds grudges or looks backwards. I always look forward. And so I was blessed for the opportunity to be in the mix 3 years ago. And I was blessed to be in the mix, a month ago when I was ultimately named head coach. So again, just that's what I focus on. Blessed to be here, and like I said, ready to continue to go to work.
So, being from Quincy, I think it's northwest of Tallahassee. How far is that, Coach? Would you reckon like a 30, 40-minute drive, you'd say?
Just 20 minutes west,
Okay.
directly west.
You're obviously familiar with Florida. That's what I'm trying to say. But Miami is still very different for a lot of reasons compared to any other city in this state. The population, weather, culture, food, etc. Talk about the culture shock that you and your family may have experienced so far with moving into the 305.
Well, the two biggest differences is the language barrier. Obviously, if you don't speak Spanish, you're gonna probably struggle down here. I was trying to order a burger from Five Guys yesterday, and was trying to tell them I wanted a lettuce bun as opposed to a bread bun, and that took some translating to make sure we got that done. And then in the traffic, having to account for the traffic. I could to a T say, hey, if I leave my house at this time in Midway, I can be to the field house at this time in Tallahassee, just because I knew the traffic. I knew where it was going to be congested at places. But growing up there, being in that area, I knew exactly how early or how late I could leave to get there on time. Whereas here in Miami, that's not the case. You better always account for traffic, no matter the time of day. You better account for traffic being here. So aside from that, again, people joke and talk about the difference in football between South Florida and North Florida. At the end of the day, this state loves high school football. And so whether you grew up in Miami, whether you grew up in Palm Beach County, Orange County, Hillsborough, Duval, Leon, Gaston, all the way out to Escambia County and Pensacola, we love our high school football here in this state. And so I knew that. I've always known that. I've always known that South Florida was flooded with talent just because of the sheer number of people here. And so I've always recruited South Florida. When I got the job at FAMU, the first hire I made was Billy Roll, because I wanted to get a coach that was from this area, that had a lot of success here, because I understood how important it was to win South Florida. And then coming here to FIU, 5 of the 10 coaches on this staff were born and raised in Miami. They're from here. And so definitely wanted to make sure that we have our footprint here. And then other coaches on the staff, Coach DeWitt, KU, Coach Smith, even, they've recruited this area for much of their career. And so the familiarity with South Florida, the high school coaches, is very important for us. And so we don't feel like there's a huge gap between what we need to do and what it currently is, because again, we feel like we have a lot of inroads with the people in the community already. And so I think that'll bode well for us as we get out. And as you can see now, we're active every day. We're offering kids left and right in South Florida and even throughout the rest of the state.
So, Coach, you're at FIU. This is a place you're kind of familiar with. When you were at MTSU, obviously you faced FIU, but on the visiting sideline. What were your initial reactions to seeing the facility, the locker room, the field house? I'm sure, it was definitely a little more different, I guess, more than FAMU, I would say, just given the resources that both schools do have. Just what were your reactions to just when you arrive here on campus?
Yeah, I was extremely surprised by the quality of our facilities here at FIU, and even some of the coaches that came in. Coach Ryan Smith and some of the guys that were at FAMU with us, commented once they got here, like, yeah, this is more than we expected. And so, we feel like we have everything here that we need to be successful. And so for us, it's just about, again, getting people to campus, allowing them to see it. We have a huge junior day coming up this weekend. We have over 100 guys registered. We're probably going to have to cap it by tomorrow, because, again, we don't want to have too many that we can't even entertain. But, again, that's the luxury and the beauty of having the relationships that we have here in South Florida, to be able to get quality student athletes, prospective student athletes to campus and show them what we have. So again, the weight room, the locker room, our players lounge, Pitbull Stadium, even our practice fields, it's on par with our peers in this conference. And so I think from a recruiting standpoint, we'll definitely be able to attract quality student athletes. We'll be able to win them over once we get here, once they see the facility and they can see themselves being successful here. And then we sell the things that we have at our disposal: the beautiful weather, the location, the culture here, the food, the things that you talk about. And then we add some wins to that as well, and continue to put guys into the National Football League. I truly believe this place can be one of the premier, if not the premier, Group of 5 school in the country.
Coach, NIL, it's changing the way college sports are handled a lot, and it's still relatively new. From what you've seen with FIU and the resources, what's your confidence level with where it's at right now? And you kind of already alluded to this, but what other tricks do you have with reeling players to FIU aside from just the monetary perspective?
Well, obviously, it's something that we have to continue to monitor as the new house settlement comes down the pike in the next few months, of what it will look like moving forward. I think that's first and foremost. The more information we have, the better we can formulate a plan as to how to attack it. What happens to collectives once the settlement, once everything, the dust settles with the house settlement. And so with that information, Scott, blueprint, we're able to sit down with Jose and put a comprehensive plan together and say, how do we want to attack NIL moving forward? And so it's always it's here to stay. It's not going to go anywhere. Hopefully it gets regulated and that we're able to control it better, so that there's some parameters put in place to where we can monitor it and actually see what other schools are offering, what other student athletes are being offered, so that we can actually have a competitive market. And so, because right now it's kind of all over the place. And so once that settles, we'll be able to, again, formulate a plan. But we understand it is part of what college football is, or what college athletics is across the board. And so we don't shy away from it. Right now, we're new. Our collective is relatively new. I think we're a year and a half in with Blueprint. They do an amazing job. They work tirelessly to go out and secure funds along with Scott. Of course, I'll be a part of that as well. And so we want to get the word out that we want to compete at the highest level. And obviously to compete at the highest level, we have to be able to be on par with our Conference USA counterparts. We understand that we're not in a position right now to compete with, our sister across the street or some of the other schools in the system. But we're not trying to at this point. We're trying to make sure that we can be extremely competitive in Conference USA. And then at the end of the day, we want to build genuine relationships here at FIU. And we want kids to want to come to FIU because of the experiences that they'll receive, because of the opportunities that they can have here at FIU and in South Florida, not because of the amount of money that we can pay them. And so that's the culture that we're going to build. And that's going to be the same for coaches. I have a phenomenal staff. I don't foresee holding on to that staff very long, because there's some rock stars on this staff that are going to have opportunities to go to quote unquote bigger places. But I always want to have coaches on this staff, support staffers on this staff, who want to be here and who understand the value of being, again, at FIU and here in South Florida. And so that's going to be the message across the board. We will attract student athletes here who, believe it or not, will turn down bigger offers monetarily at other places, because they know the type of program they're going to be a part of here, and it's something that they're going to want to experience, and that's how we'll win them over. I don't know if we'll ever get to a place where we can go there and go toe to toe with other schools as far as how much money we can pay, but that's not our number one motivating factor here at FIU. It's one of the greatest schools in the country, one of the top public schools in America, and one of the best cities and cultures in the country. Networking opportunities. I mean, the opportunities are endless down here in Miami and South Florida. So why would you want to go somewhere else? Because we're playing the long game here. It's not just about the short-term NIL money that you can make. It's about the 30, 40 years down the road. What type of life can I build for myself? What type of legacy can you leave for your children and your community that will impact lives moving forward? And that mirrors the overall vision and philosophy of this fine institution. So we're going to continue to do that. And then, like I said, hopefully in the next few months, the dust will settle on this house settlement, and we'll be able to see what direction we'll go in as far as NIL goes.
Yeah, Coach. I also feel like social media plays a big part in today's game. You see all these players posting where they're going, visits, and you yourself are very active on social media as well. Talk about how that's now played a little bit into college football. And, you know, in your case, FIU, who has really grown their social media accounts ever since Scott Carr got here, and just the work that they're doing. I mean, how much have they been, FIU Creative also been a help to you?
Yeah, that's the new landscape, and again, in collegiate athletics, you have to take advantage of social media. It's how we market ourselves. It's how we get our message across. It's how we contact prospective student athletes. I have way more social media handles than personal phone numbers. The easiest way to get a hold of a kid is to get his Twitter handle, not to get his cell phone number, because they're all attached to their phones anyway. So they'll look at their social media more than they look at their actual inboxes to see who's texting them. And voicemails stay filled up, so they don't even check voicemails anymore. And so you have to be active on it. You know, again, for us, it's about building our brand. You know, this program is still relatively new. I mean, we're only 23 years into playing football here. And so we got a long way to go to catch up with some of the blue bloods that have been around for over 100 years. And so that presence, it has to be at an all-time high. You know, I tell people all the time, and I'm not afraid to say it here, you know, we got to get all of our FIU fans back. You know, the people that were here in 1972 in that first class all the way to 2002, they didn't have a football team to root for. No. And so guess what? They became default fans of other schools because they didn't have a football team. And so we got to go get all those fans back and say, hey, you can root for your alma mater now. We have a big time football program here. We're going to do some amazing things, and you will be able to go into your office on Monday proud because your football team won on Saturday. And so that's what we have to do. We have to get all of our old FIU Panther fans back, the Golden Panthers, so to speak. We got to bring them back into the fold and continue to attract new followers because we have a goal to pack out Pitbull Stadium. In order to do that, we have to continue to recruit locally so that our players can bring their family, their friends, their church members out to games. We got to win this student body, 55,000+ students here. We got to get them out to the game to create a great game day environment. And then we have to bring the community out. You know, and those are the challenges that we have here to get people to pack the stadium out. So again, we've got some work to do, but the good thing is whether it's Scott, whether it's Blueprint, myself, we're all prepared to roll our sleeves up and do the work that needs to be done to continue to bring awareness to what we're doing here at FIU, because there's a lot of momentum. We have to continue to capitalize on it and take full advantage of it going into this 25 football season.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. So, Coach, you've been awesome so far. We appreciate it. But Kevin, is it time for a quick news break?
Let's do it.
All righty, let's get into my news break where we look at all things FIU athletics and just FIU in general, just to catch you all up on what we're doing here. So let's get right into it, starting off with FIU women's tennis, as there have been a few players honored this week. First things first, Ekaterina Kharitonova has been named the CUSA Female Athlete of the Week, and both she and Valerie Janina have been named to the CUSA Tennis Athletes of the Week for the second week in a row. Kharitonova is coming off a come-from-behind solos victory over Miami, and the duo swept Miami's top doubles, helping FIU secure a 4-0 win over the Canes. In addition, FIU tennis has earned a spot in the ITA rankings at number 25 in the country as they look to go for another CUSA title down the stretch. So congrats to FIU tennis. Next up is FIU football, conveniently, as there have been a couple of new members joining the Panthers as either analysts or members of the EQ team. We're going to focus on the analysts here. Brian Crawford will take over the duties as an offensive analyst with ties to Coach Simmons at FAMU, along with some experience at Georgia Military College. And Ayo Randolph will become, hopefully I pronounced that right, become a defensive analyst returning back to the 305. In addition, Donald Reed will become the director of football equipment operations, while Noah Catanzarite, hopefully I also got that right, also joins the football EQ team as an assistant. Let's wrap up here with FIU baseball, as three Panthers, Keyshawn Fred, Alex Uloa, and Brylan West, have been named to the Perfect Game preseason All-Conference USA team. These players were major contributors to FIU's offense last season, with 37 combined home runs and 115 combined RBIs between the trio. Opening day for the Panthers is soon approaching, February 14th at 6:30 p.m. as the Panthers host the Stone Hill Skyhawks.
think one of the biggest guys we brought in was getting Kiwan back, lights out,
Yeah.
bringing him back for his third season here at FIU. I mean, over 2,000 yards passing, over 20 touchdowns. I mean, I think the resume and what he's done so far speaks for himself. Just talk about being able to bring him back. How tough was it knowing that there was interest for him out there? I mean, anytime there's a 2-year starter that's had success, you know, I'm sure in the transfer portal, I'm sure a lot of teams would love to have him, but you guys were able to keep him. And I'm sure for you, that's kind of like a sigh of relief knowing, all right, I'm going to have the quarterback who knows the team well, knows the school well. And at the end of the day, he's Miami native. So fans are going to come out to watch this kid.
No doubt. He was without question the biggest signee of the 25 class. And so once I got here, my first order of business was to try to make sure we kept lights out. And so, you know, spent a lot of time with him and his dad, really talked about our philosophy, our vision, the fact that I was a college quarterback, the fact that I'm a play caller, really helped him to be able to paint the picture of what this offense will look like and how pivotal his role would be within this, you know, really selling to him that he can be the face, one of the faces of collegiate athletics here in the city of Miami, which he is, being a native. And so just the opportunity to really take this city by storm, I think was something that excited Lights Out and his family. You know, them being able to watch him play every game, it was important to them. And again, he's royalty around here. What he was able to do in high school and his name recognition. And so it would be tough to give that up. But because he's a good player, because he's had production, there were people that were trying to, you know, to get him to leave South Florida. So definitely blessed that he stayed. And really sets a solid foundation for us offensively. For me, is another challenge because I've never coached a left-handed quarterback before. So that would be unique to see how that works out. But definitely looking forward to seeing what Lights Out can do for us. Along with the other guys, you know, it's going to be a great quarterback competition this spring, and looking forward to each of those guys bringing out the best in each other because the competition drives us all. And so definitely want him to understand that he does, that the job is not just given to him. He will line up in the first day we go into a flex line. He will be first in that line. No guarantee that he will stay first. He has to produce at the level that he's capable of. And but we're looking forward to seeing him work and do that and work to become one of the leaders of this football team, because naturally whenever you're taking a program over that that hasn't had the level of success that we all want, it's going to take some leadership and some reinforcing of those core values, and guys like Lights Out who have experience, who performed at a high level, are some of the guys that can really carry that forward.
So looking at the transfer portal so far, it's obviously still a work in progress, but the Panthers have added a lot of talent from all over the country with a very solid mix of players from the G5, P4, FCS, and the JUCO, with a few from Tallahassee as well, which I like. Just talk a bit about some of the players you've brought in that you feel the most excited to see contribute to this team on day one.
Well, like you said, we tried to address a lot of needs, lost a lot of good players, so we had to fill a lot of voids pretty quickly. The two guys that I'm not say most excited about, but very excited to talk about, are the two that I've coached before, and that's Johnny Chaney and Trey Wilhoit. You know, Johnny Chaney is a linebacker that spent 4 years with us at Florida A&M.
Yeah.
Transferred to Colorado this past season. Didn't have the level of success that he maybe had envisioned. And then entered the portal again, and now he's coming home for his final season here, you know, at FIU. So, you know, Chaney looks great. We call him Chainsaw. So I anticipate seeing a lot of that celebration this season. You know, but again, he's a guy that brings a lot of tenacity, a lot of physicality to the linebacker position. Obviously, losing Trey, Conference Player of the Year was a big loss. But I think Chaney will be able to feel a lot of that, you know, with his playmaking ability. And then Trey, you know, just the importance of having a big-time specialist that can flip the field. You know, Trey's been one of the top punters in the country at the FCS level, you know, over the last 3 seasons, and looking forward to seeing what he can do in this new conference, you know, under Coach Gilstra's leadership. But very, very powerful leg, a lot of hang time, does some funky things with the ball to be able to place him inside the 10-yard line and pin teams back. So really excited about those two guys, because I know what they can do. I've seen them up close and personal. But the other transfers, you know, starting at wide receiver with Alex Perry. You know, he's a local guy, big 6'5" receiver, you know, has some production there in Hawaii. So whenever you can get a long body, vertical threat, red zone threat, you know, that helps a guy like Lights Out. to be able to put the ball up high, knowing that you got a guy that can go over the defensive backs and get it. And then Dallas Payne and Jackson Verdugo. Jackson's a high school kid, but bringing in Dallas Payne, we were kind of depleted at the tight end position going into this season. So really addressed a huge need. So now you bring in Dallas Payne, Jackson Verdugo, as well as Sean Burke, from high school. That gives you three, vibrant bodies that are all over 6'3". They have a lot of growth potential that can really, really boost our size at tight end and on special teams. And then up front, you have a guy like Antonio Tripp, come over from the University of Miami. Obviously, offensive line is a huge positional need for everybody in the country, not just us at FIU. So having him come in along with Julius Pierce, a name that many Panthers might be familiar with, a guy that has started his career here at FIU, transferred to Middle Tennessee, and now he's back. Again, excited to have him. And then defensive line, obviously, KU did an amazing job of identifying some guys that can come in and play. Dante Anderson, and Lamont Green Jr. from Florida State, both local guys coming back home to the 305 to play at defensive end. Big Sue, and Aaron, coming in, a defensive tackle, two big body guys, on the interior that can really give us some quality depth on the defensive line. And then in the secondary, G7, again, coming back home, after stint at Arizona, and Demetrius Hill, coming back home, another guy like Julius Pierce, who started his career here at FIU before transferring to Illinois and now coming back. And then obviously, last but not least, Websley Etienne, another local guy, who's excited to be here. So really try to tap into guys who are from the area, from the 305, Broward County, Palm Beach County, who've gone out to other schools, but wanted to come back to their roots. And they're excited to be here, man. And we're looking forward to seeing what these guys can do. And so, again, a good mixture of veteran guys, younger guys, but very excited to be here. No one has that look in their eyes like they're not happy to be here. And, again, just can't wait to see what these guys can do as they establish themselves as hopefully big-time players for us here at FIU in a relatively short time.
Coach, talk a bit about what you've learned so far about Conference USA. Obviously, you're not going to be the only new coach in CUSA. Almost every team will look a lot different from last season. And not to mention, you have two new teams coming in as well from FCS, Delaware, Missouri State. It feels like the Wild West of conferences right now. What's the state of it in your eyes?
Well, I think the state of the conference is really strong. Obviously, whenever you're adding programs, you look at the success that Jacksonville State, Sam Houston State, Kennesaw, those guys that were FCS schools coming into the conference and having immediate success. Sam Houston last year, I think, won 10 games. Jacksonville State won the championship. And then you add a program like Delaware, who has a rich history in FCS. Missouri State, Bob Petrino was there just a couple of years ago as a head coach. And so, again, some really quality programs with some tradition that are coming into the league and in new markets. So, again, we're really excited about that. And it's going to be a competitive league. I think it's wide open. Right now, Liberty, is a team that over the years has really established themselves, with their resources. They probably have more resources than many of us because of the type of school they are. Again, the rest of us are really trying to grow and build our programs up to compete at the highest level. And but again, have a ton of respect for the coaches in this league. I know Jerry Mack personally. I know he's doing the same thing that I'm doing up at Kennesaw, trying to build his staff, build his program. Scotty Walden over at UTEP is another guy that I'm all familiar with. So again, really look forward to rubbing elbows with some of those guys in the conference. Obviously, Middle Tennessee State, Western Kentucky. Spent 6 years at Middle Tennessee, and then obviously Western was a rival of ours. So just knowing those programs and the potential of those places, Derek Mason there at Middle Tennessee, he and I had a real great talk at the head coaches meeting a couple of weeks ago at AFCA. So everybody's excited. Everybody's excited about the league. The fact that you have multiple minority coaches in the league, I think is a great thing. And but again, I think it's going to be highly competitive. And I think any team at this point has an equal opportunity to go out and win the championship. And so we're going to do our part, and we look forward to seeing when the schedule finally drops what the slate looks like, because we can be traveling as far as New Mexico State or as far up northeast as Delaware.
Right.
So we're definitely looking forward to seeing what that travel budget is going to look like this year.
The travel in CUSA is crazy. It feels like Miami's always the easiest place to get to. But, Coach, you mentioned rivalry. We need to ask you, how excited are you for that rivalry against FAU? Two new head coaches. You're getting a new quarterback over there at FAU. feels like it is brewing to be a really good game overall when you look at both teams.
Well, it's definitely a rival, and they're our rival. Make no mistake about it. Conference foes or not, they are our rival, and so I know that's a game that everyone has circled on their calendar. I had a chance to meet Coach Kitley just a couple of weeks ago, and again, looking forward to seeing what that rivalry grows into. And I've been a part of rivalries my entire life. In college, obviously, been at Clemson, playing South Carolina. During my time at Middle Tennessee State, the rivalry there at Western Kentucky, going over to Alcorn, having that rivalry with Jackson State, at Prairie View with Texas Southern, and obviously at Florida A&M with Bethune-Cookman. And I know all too well what rivalries look like, and we know how important that is. I've heard the talk about the lack of success that FIU's had against FAU over the last few years, and obviously we got to do our part to change that.
Okay, Coach, I'll be real here for a second. I can't remember the last time Pitbull Stadium was completely packed. Obviously, it happened way before Pitbull Stadium was named that, but FIU has a lot of students and a lot of alumni, as I'm sure you've seen, but it is in a city with a lot of other sports and events to choose from. Winning cures all. I get that. But how else can and will you, Scott Carr, and others at FIU convince people to go out and watch an FIU game?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's obviously something that, we have to tackle. And I kind of alluded to it earlier. Again, I think it really starts in 3 areas. So first, it's recruiting. You got to recruit local guys, because who better to fill the stadium than people who want to see their sons, their cousins, their neighbors, their church members, their park friends play. And so that's where it starts. And so getting the word out. Again, Lights Out should have his own cult following every Saturday. Or Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever we play during October, here to watch him. And again, the same could be said about the other guys from the tri-state area. So it starts there. And then it goes to, again, this student body, like we talked about. And so really getting out, the first day of classes, don't know if you guys saw it, but my coaches and I were out passing out books in the bookstore, walking throughout campus, really meeting a lot of students and asking them, hey, have you been to an FIU football game? The resounding answer for a lot of them was no. And so we challenged them right then. Hey, you got to come to a game this fall. Just commit to coming to one game, so we can get, again, 55,000 students. If we can get each of them to commit to coming to one game, I think we can have a pretty live student section. And then lastly, the local community. And so really just getting behind this team. This is Miami's team. Again, we got to make sure that we do a really great job of selling that message and getting people behind us. And so that's us getting out in the community, not just me as the head coach, not just Scott as the AD, but it's our players, and really getting out and being seen and making people want to support them. And if we can do that and we get them to Pitbull Stadium and we make it an event, an experience, they'll come back, right? So winning does cure all. People want to see winners and support winners, but people also want to have a good time. And so when they do come to Pitbull Stadium, we have to make sure the game day environment is second to none. That they come here and it's a party. And one thing about this culture, this big Hispanic culture that we have here, they love to party, right? And so we got to make it a party here at Pitbull Stadium. And if we can make it a party and we can make it exciting, make it an exciting brand of football, I think it'll keep people coming back. And so, yes, we got to take baby steps, but it starts with local recruiting and their families. It extends to the student population and then to the community. And if we can wrap our arms around those 3 bases, I think we can do a really good job of having a great game day environment here at Pitbull Stadium. And once word gets out and once we start winning, then I think we can be able to have the packed out stadiums that will give us a true home field advantage.
Hey, you have Pitbull, so I think that'll certainly make it a party here in Miami. Coach, talk really quickly. Have you ever played weekday football in college? And if so, are you ready for it? How different is going to be the preparation for you? Because CUSA, definitely there's a long stretch there where it's Tuesday, Wednesday games.
Yeah, well, no, I played Thursday and Friday games, obviously. Never a date other than those. And so I know it's coming. So, again, looking forward to my first Tuesday night game, first Wednesday night game. Again, I think the biggest challenge will be the long stretches between games sometimes. I was talking to Rick Stockstill. I think it's last season at Middle Tennessee State. He had 18 days between games. He had a Tuesday game, then a bye week, and then a Saturday game. or maybe another midweek game. It's like a Tuesday game, bye week, and then I think like a Monday night or Wednesday night game or something like that. So there were literally 18 days between playing, which is the essence 2 bye weeks. And so I think that's the challenge whenever the schedule does drop. If we have that long lapse, just figuring out how we can keep the guys motivated, keep them practicing hard, keep them sharp as far as their fundamentals and details to make sure. But again, it's something that the entire conference has to experience. And so it allows us to play on national television, allows us to grow our brands, to get the FIU name out nationally because you're the only team playing, even though it's a Tuesday night, but you're the only team playing. And so everyone in the country is watching, FIU versus Kennesaw or FIU versus UTEP or whoever the case may be. And so it really, really gives us a chance to really strengthen our brand. So I know it's an inconvenience for many people, but again, we look forward to doing it. And hopefully we can put a good product on the field. Hopefully we can really sell this great institution that we call home. And if we can continue to get in people's ears and homes that, we're a top 50 institution, the number one rated public institution in the state of Florida by some publications, that will continue to have our enrollment skyrocket and continue to attract the best, not only students, but student athletes in the country.
Yeah, I mean, there were some really crazy periods. I remember. I think it was right before New Mexico State or after. It was 18 days without. I was like, wow,
nuts.
It's crazy. But yeah.
So, alrighty, Coach. Again, thanks so much for spending some time with us, man. Let's start to get into some fun rapid fire questions as we start to close out the show. Talk a bit about the funniest coach, player, etc. that you have met at FIU so far.
Funniest coach is a toss-up between Anthony Gator and Ryan Smith. Anthony Gator obviously is from here. He's always joking around, very playful guy. And Ryan Smith has the best one-liners in the country. You got to get around him. You got to hear him. But between those two guys, they're going to keep you laughing. And so I definitely would say coaching-wise. Player-wise, I haven't been around them as much to quite see who the funny guy is. I think Keywan may have a hand in that, But again, looking forward to seeing the personality of this team as I'm around them a lot more.
What does a Willie Simmons playlist look like?
Oh man, the playlist. A lot of R&B. I'm an R&B soul guy, and if not that, then it's gospel. And then the few moments that I do want to quote unquote turn up, it'll be a mixture of Kendrick Lamar, some old school rap, Nas, Tupac, Lil Wayne. So I'm more of a late '90s, 2000, early 2000s rap guy. This new rap, I really can't get into that quite like the young guys. I'm more old school, but yeah, typically I'm kind of mellowed out, so it's gonna be some R&B soul or some gospel.
You're gonna have to add some Pitbull to that real soon.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Definitely got to add Pitbull to the playlist.
So, since moving to Miami, what have been some of the dining locations, both on and off campus, that you've been kind of sticking to here in the 305?
Well, I'll tell you what, on campus, the Graham Center is unbelievable. I mean, just the cafeteria itself, just going in there, the full buffet, the all you can eat menu. I mean, you got pretty much every style of food you can name. So if you can just go to the Graham Center every day and have something different. Off campus, obviously, because of recruiting, we spent a lot of time at Rusty Pelican, Joya,
nice,
Texas de Brazil, those places. Cheesecake Factory right there in Dolphin Mall. So again, a lot of great eating spots. There's some local places here on campus. Diced, Green Chicken. Those places are very good. And so people have told me about the food in Miami. They have not disappointed. It's been some amazing food. I've been able to keep my weight in check, which is a good thing. Probably because I'm working out like crazy every morning, but it is very difficult with so much good food to keep the weight in check.
Yeah.
What's your favorite sport outside of football?
Favorite sport outside of football is basketball. A huge basketball fan. Looking forward to getting to a Heat game here pretty soon. I have not been able to get to one since I've been named. I've been to a Heat game before, but just not since I've been named head coach. So definitely looking forward to that. And then, of course, around playoffs time. Hopefully he can make it. I know they're going through some things now with Jimmy Butler and but hopefully they can get it together, because I would definitely love to watch a Heat playoff run. The environment there is very impressive, especially during playoff time.
For sure. And
So,
FIU prides themselves on the uniforms. It's Vice after Vice. It's Biscayne blue. It's a new field design, a new jersey design. What's out of the ones you've seen? Which one's your favorite?
Well, I mean, they're all phenomenal, So Donald and I are looking forward to designing the new Vice uniform. We'll start that process, I think, next week. So really looking forward to seeing how we can come up with the colorway for the jersey. But again, the Biscayne blue it looks great. The Vice uniforms look amazing, but the traditional navy, the traditional navy with the gold pants. I mean, that's the FIU that I remember. Lining up and seeing T.Y. Hilton take off with all navy on. It's pretty impressive. Seeing Anthony Gator intercept the ball and going the other way with the navy and gold pants on. So I'm a traditional guy, so we will wear our traditional uniforms, but we'll mix in the flavor with the Biscayne blue, with the Vice, blue and pink. But again, just looking forward to seeing how we can continue to grow the brand of uniforms, because obviously, like I said, you got to be able to sell yourself. And the fact that we don't wear the same uniform twice in the same season is a big time selling point for us.
Without a doubt. Name a football player all time, past or present, that you would love to throw a pass to.
Wow. You gotta say Jerry Rice. What he meant as a receiver, like, it's unbelievable. I mean, that was the era I grew up in, of watching Jerry Rice, and I think he's a guy that his skill set translates to any era, whether it's old school now, during that time. So Jerry Rice would definitely be a guy that if I had one pass to throw in my life, I would want to throw it to Jerry Rice.
Coach, we ask this to everyone we get on the podcast. Who do you think should be the next FIU coach on your staff that we should bring on here?
I think the next coach. It's a great question, because there are a lot of great choices. I don't think anyone would be a bad choice.
Right.
I think if you go hierarchy, you got to say Javon as assistant head coach and defensive coordinator. So I go Javon DeWitt, then Frank Pons as associate head coach, and then Nick Coleman as the OC, and then Gil Strap as a special teams coordinator. So I just kind of look at the roster and, based on hierarchy, just kind of start chipping away at it. But I think all of them have a unique perspective. I think they all have great journeys of how they got here, and I think you'll be impressed with all of them about their passion for football, development of young men, and being a part of this amazing staff.
Love it.
Keep it in mind. Okay. Coach Simmons, again, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. If you have anything you'd like to say to the fans, to FIU, to anybody, the floor is now yours.
Well, again, I said it at my press conference. I'm so excited to be the leader of this amazing program at one of the premier institutions in the world. And our goal is to have our football team match the excellence of this great institution. And but to do that, we're going to need your help. So we're going to need you to support these young men. We're going to need you to support us with our NIL collective, Blueprint Collective. We're going to need you to support by buying season tickets. Support by buying apparel. Coming to games, and really just spreading the good news that's FIU football. I think we're doing some special things here, and we're really looking forward to what the future holds. But you're a vital part of that, and so spread the word. Tell your neighbors, tell your church members, tell your stylists, everyone in the hair salon that they need to buy season tickets. And once the schedule drops, really commit yourself to coming to Pitbull Stadium and supporting these guys and seeing what type of team that we're going to be, because it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fast paced. We're going to win a bunch of games. We're going to hit people hard on defense, and we're going to score a bunch of points. And so really looking forward to seeing how fast we can pack Pitbull Stadium. That's the personal challenge that I have to every Panther fan. How fast can we pack Pitbull Stadium to give us the greatest game day environment in Conference USA?
Love to hear that, Coach. We appreciate you taking the time. We're excited to cover you, your story, your staff, your team, and we'll be out there March 4th, which is when spring practice begins, and then April 5th, I believe, is the spring game for FIU. So, yeah. Coach Simmons, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time, and from Coach, from Jake, and myself, we'll see you guys all next week. Peace out, and Paws up.
Paws up!